Good afternoon, everybody. First, my sincere thanks to the organizers for including me as a member of this panel. And I apologize for not being here in person because of some pressing issues at home. I have to admit that this video was put together rather hastily with the help of my friend Zining. And I apologize in advance for the deficiencies.
The topic of my talk is entitled Targeting the Wrong Audience, the Non-Effectiveness of Visual Activism in the Kelau Dam Project. First, I should make clear what I mean by visual activism. Unlike in science or in anthropological recording, in visual activism, the camera is not employed as an impartial, neutral instrument. It is instead used consciously and proactively to support or oppose one side of a controversial issue, the end goal being to bring about change. In the case of the Kelau Dam project, we were able to gather a considerable amount of visual and even audio data to argue against the rationale of the project. But as it turned out, it was not a matter of how much supporting visuals and audios you had, rather it was who you directed them at. The Kelau Dam project involved transferring raw water from the state of Pahang to the state of Selangor via a 44-kilometer tunnel dug through the central mountain range. Initially, 2 dams were planned, but one was later dropped for cost reasons. The purpose of the dam was to ensure that the state of Selangor and that of the capital city Kuala Lumpur would not suffer a water shortage that was foreseen to occur this decade. Japan is very much involved in this project, not just from the position as a lender of a 82 billion yen soft loan to the Japanese Bank for International Cooperation, or JBIC, now under JICA, but they also provided the engineering brainwaves for the Trans-State Trans-Mountain Water Transfer Project. From the day the project was announced in 1999, there had been a stream of distortion, misinformation, and even outright lies that were put forward by various people, all acting for the project proponent, all supporting the need for the dam project. This included some of the consultants and some of the government officers responsible for Orang Asli affairs. Partly because the JBIC guidelines required that there be consultations with the various stakeholders, we were able to get access to some of the decision-making processes of the dam project. However, although we had evidence to support these charges, some of them in very visual form, our use of them did not get the desired impact. That is, we were not able to stop the dam project. Many of these issues have been discussed and elaborated in our campaign video that was produced in early 2008 called Drowned Forest Dam Lives. It made a convincing argument against the need for the dam and had strong supporting visuals to show how the decision-making processes were fraught with irregularities and deceit. All these evidences were made known to the project proponents, including the Japanese lenders, prior to the DVD being circulated to the public. It is now clear that these evidence and arguments fell on deaf ears. We all were inconsequential to the interests of the powers that be behind the project. It is felt that such evidence and arguments would have been easily appreciated by the general public, possibly even motivating them to act to stop the project. Unfortunately, this was a case of having a lot of good convincing visual argument coming a little too late to the right audience. And a little late is still late for all intents and purposes in this case. We had gathered much evidence against the dam. One argument concerned the water demand data used by the project proponents to justify the need for the dam. According to their flawed analysis, the state of Selangor would face a water shortage by 2002, the date by which the original 2 dams were supposed to be ready. It is now the end of 2009, and the dams have not been built, and yet there is still no water shortage in Selangor as yet. The water demand projections were therefore flawed. Even if the water was really needed to stem a looming shortage, there were other cheaper alternatives to get the needed water to Selangor. This included getting it from the water-rich state of Perak in the north. There was no need for a tunnel to be drilled to any mountain, as the pipeline could easily follow the existing railway track. But it was clear that the motivation for the project was financial benefit for some. It is not surprising that the original project cost had increased from 1 billion ringgit in 1999 to almost 10 billion ringgit today. And there was also a Japanese connection in the tender for the contracts. A forensic accounting study of the project done by some accounting graduate students showed how a prominent Japanese businessman who had close business links with the top leaders in the country was involved in all the 3 bids made. Local businessmen linked to the main political party UMNO and even the royalty were also identified. Also, despite being told that the tender had not been decided on yet, the Chief Minister of Pahang revealed that a Japanese contractor had been given the contract for the dam.
Jadi untuk itu, kerajaan terpaksa buatkan projek ini untuk orang ramai. Belanjanya daripada Jepun. Main kontraktor daripada Jepun tu ya. Jepun. Dan duit dia kita pakai. Dia kata, okey, awak ambil duit saya tapi kontraktor saya.
To illustrate the contention of my paper, I shall discuss the manner the project proponents used to get the so-called consent from the Orang Asli to be resettled for the dam. Right from the beginning, the Orang Asli in Kampung Sungai Teme, which was supposed to be inundated by the dam project, did not agree to be resettled. In all stakeholder meetings, the Batin or headman was regarded as the rightful representative of the Orang Asli community. No other community leaders were brought to these meetings. But the Batin had been consistent in his stand on the project. He was against the resettlement of his community since the beginning, and he has stated that he was consistently being forced, paksa, to agree to the resettlement.
Dia cakap tak pindah, dia kata, kau, Tok Batin, paksa kau pindah juga. Kalau tak pindah pun paksa pindah. Tapi dia paksa juga pindah.
In fact, at a major stakeholder meeting hosted by the Economic Planning Unit of the Prime Minister's Department, the Batin reiterated his position to the resettlement. Here he was the sole Orang Asli attending the meeting and was surrounded by government officers including the Director General of the Department of Orang Asli Affairs. At this meeting, the chairperson has stated to all present, including the JBIC officers from Tokyo, that the Orang Asli are very agreeable to the resettlement. However, when asked by me if this was so, the Batin told the meeting in Malay that it is true I say I support the project because we Orang Asli have been weakened. Others weaken us. They say resettle, we have to resettle. Officers come in and say, Tok Batin, resettle, and we have to resettle. They pressure us until we cannot think anymore. If we have a choice, we want to stay where we are. The land is our ancestors' land. We have been there for a long time. But what can we do? The government wants to give water to Selangor. Even after saying this in front of a large crowd of stakeholders, the chairperson interpreted the headman's remarks for the benefit of the JBIC officers present as, the Orang Asli are very anxious to move to the site. This was a blatant lie that would have easily infuriated any right-thinking citizen had we made it known to them. But in reality, the Orang Asli need not have to be resettled. In a letter to us in 2005, the chief representative of JBIC in Kuala Lumpur stated that, according to the government of Malaysia, the Orang Asli houses of Sungai Teme will not be inundated and the people can choose either to stay or to move from the current village to a new resettlement in Sungai Belut. So why resettle the Orang Asli, especially when they said no all this while? For some reason, JBIC, later JICA, and the project proponents were not intent on giving the Orang Asli a chance to decide if they want to resettle or not. In fact, even when 27 Orang Asli took up a case to ask the courts to stop the dam project on account of the environmental laws of the country not being adhered to, JBIC, now JICA, and the project proponents further pursued the Orang Asli and tried to persuade them to resettle. In an effort to satisfy JICA's requirement of consent from the Orang Asli stakeholders, a final big push was executed by the government and the project proponents in August this year. Although it was termed a working visit by the Minister of Energy, Green Technology and Water, it was actually a 3-day event to pressure the Orang Asli into accepting the resettlement deal. The village was crawling with police personnel, staff from the various government departments, and there were also goodies to be given out. The Batin was swarmed by all this. He was still against the resettlement, although not against the dam. But the pressure to concede was tremendous, unlike how it was in the past. Besides, the authorities now saw it fit to regard other young people in the village as the Batins, even though they had no such position in the community. It was a battle lost. The majority of the Orang Asli signed the consent forms. And the Japanese officers from JICA, MOFA and the embassy in KL joined the project proponents in celebrating this victory. We have not been able to stop the dam, but we have learned some valuable lessons in the process. 1. Business interests and political connections always prevail in decision-making processes, and they will scrape the bottom of the bin to ensure that they get what they want. 2. We cannot always rely on the neutrality and the supposed objectivity of academics and consultants to stop such projects. 3. But the state and business sector is sensitive to public opinion and public pressure. And 4. As such, we should always engage the general public and engage them early in the campaign. That is all. Thank you very much.